What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest of cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and I'm sad. Parting is such sweet sorrow. I have Chris Abacon has been my guest host graciously for the past 2 weeks. Shannon's on vacation, much needed and deserved vacation. Chris stepped up to the plate. And this is our last episode in the series for now. We're going to definitely have Chris back. He's been a great co-host. I'm trying to get him in here as much as possible before he probably starts his own podcast, right? The A Bacon podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's been truly an honor. It's been cool, right? I've known Chris for about 8 years, so almost a decade. We
Wow.
were at the Joint Communication Support Element together here at MacDill in Tampa, Florida, where we did a bunch of cool stuff. He is a Navy vet. I'm an Air Force vet. And now we work together. We're consultants. So I think that's really cool. It's a small world, and it's great to be, again, for those of you who have been, like, I know everybody who listens is not from the military, but in the military, you make lifelong friends. So it's cool to see this thing develop and where it's currently at. So thank you for being on the show. It's again been an honor. Last week we went over your origin story. We talked about Barbie. You said you're going to go see Oppenheimer.
Yes.
Did you go see it?
I did see Oppenheimer, and
you still have your retinas and get burnt out in the IMAX.
Yeah, and the IMAX theater I was at, it was just as I expected. You could feel the seat rumbling. It was an experience, really.
Okay.
But the movie was long. Yeah, it's 3-hour runtime, but I didn't stop. I was engaged the entire time.
You're edge of your seat the entire time?
It was edge of your seat because I think the cinematography, the acting, the music, right? And it's just weird, like how they made you feel throughout the first half of the movie, right? That discovery phase with Oppenheimer in his younger days, it really plays on the emotions of, I could do anything, right? So from the perspective as a young scientist, right? Young physicist rather, looking to figure something out, right? To discover something new. And that feeling of discovering something new, I think it definitely plays on our like human heartstrings of, invention, discovery. I mean, in this case, right, it would be, a weapon of mass destruction, right? But it's still a scientific marvel. And I definitely recommend, if you've got the time, go watch the movie. Definitely go watch the movie. It's gonna be awesome.
And I do want to see almost 3 hours, right?
Yeah, actually, I think it is 3 hours. I think that's including the credits and everything though too. But I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is in it, Emily Blunt's in it. I mean, it's got a all-star cast. I mean, you've got Rami Malek. I mean, small role.
Oh, really?
But
okay.
Rami Malek's in there.
Oh, that's awesome.
And Gary Oldman's in there too. A small role he played, but
okay.
It's if you've seen a lot of the Chris Nolan movies, he likes to reuse a lot of the characters, a lot of the actors. And really, Matt Damon's in here too. Right, so you've got an all-star cast. It's only really missing Leonardo DiCaprio, but it's got everybody but Leo, right? So definitely give it a shot. Definitely go see it when you get the chance. And Barbie is next on the list. Told my family we watched it together, and
gotcha. It's worth it. It's worth it. It's definitely a fun time. It help you unwind from the burden of Oppenheimer.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? At 3 hours.
Yeah, and what was his name? Josh Hartnett showed up. That was in the movie too. And I haven't seen Josh Hartnett. I haven't heard about Josh Hartnett since I was in high school, right? And that all-star cast. Go watch it. Definitely recommend it.
That's awesome. I assume it's gonna do very well. Like Barbie has that universal appeal, so I think Barbie will outpace it, right? Like Barbie's gonna be a $1 billion. I think it's almost $1 billion already. It's kind of like that injection the theaters needed, which it's a double-edged sword. Like I talk about it all the time on this show. Movies are expensive. Like it's if I take my family of 5, we're over $100 easy. Like the amount of money they charge for popcorn for is ridiculous, or a pop or a soda, whatever you say. I say pop.
Soda pop.
So, soda pop. It's a very expensive venture, so it's good to see that people are going back. They're getting back into the swing of things. I probably will go back to the theater sometime this year. I don't know what it'll be that'll get me there. It might be the Marvels might bring me back to the theater, but I can't think of anything between. I know there was a Studio Ghibli marathon I missed. I was kind of thinking about going, but every time I go there, it's at least $60, if not $100. I'm just like,
Yeah.
it's pricey. So I go there for blockbusters, right? So Barbie was that was that blockbuster, summer blockbuster for me. I do want to see Oppenheimer, but I'm gonna wait till it hits the streams, which will probably be in the next 90 to 120 days, right? That's typically how it goes down. You get your avatars, and your Mario just dropped. So Mario is on stream already. And that movie made $1 billion, right? It's already on stream. So I expect the same for Oppenheimer and for Barbie. So that's awesome. What else did you get into this week?
So I actually really I'm big into anime and manga, right? So I've actually been reading my favorite manga of all time is One Piece. And it's kind of crazy to think I'm a grown-ass man reading One Piece, but I've been reading
I
One Piece
mean,
since, yeah.
yeah, it came out in the 90s. I mean, you started
Yeah,
out in your childhood.
19, yeah. So it was, I think I started reading it in early 2000s, right? It was at middle school or high school.
Oh,
But
I'm so old. That's your
yeah,
middle school? Is the early 2000s? Yeah, I guess it would be.
yeah.
Oh
Middle
man,
school. Yeah, I graduated high school in 2006, right? So I think it was
I'm so
2004.
old.
Yeah, so 2003, like, but yeah, I've been reading this manga for 20 plus years, and it's kind of crazy. But they're actually One Piece is actually coming out with a live action finally later this month, right? And I saw the trailer for it, and it looks great. Actually, it looks
Live
actually
action
pretty
where
awesome
though? Like
on
who's
Netflix.
doing that? Oh man,
Netflix.
so
And
that's
that's
hit
the
or
thing,
miss.
right? It's right. So this is like my favorite manga slash anime for 2 decades now. And I'm praying that they don't nuke this. They don't screw it
How
up. I
how do
mean,
they do it though? Because like, so my son's been trying to get me on One Piece for a couple of years now.
mhm,
He is current. So my son has because he's only 15, so he had to plow through almost 1,000 episodes, right, to catch up to where he's
yeah.
at now. And he's like, you have to watch this latest episode. It's going to be what gets you hooked. And I was like,
I don't
you said that about the beginning of it. I watched one episode, right? I'm not saying it's not a bad anime. It had
mhm,
all the tropes, and I've heard it's evolved and it's like
yeah.
great. It's got god tier animation. I don't have 1,000 episodes in me.
It
I
is a
don't I don't
lot of
have
time.
it. He was like, oh, 10% of his filler, just skip that. I was like, son, the way math works. That is still a lot of episodes I need to watch. He's like, well, just watch this latest one with me. I was like, I will absolutely watch this latest one with you, but I cannot sit here and lie to your face and say I'm going to watch almost 1,000 episodes to be current. It's just not going to happen. But the reason I asked all that is, what is Netflix producing? Is it going to be a story arc in a movie? Like, how do you? It
it's
can't be everything. It's a
it's
thousand.
going
It's
to
a thousand
be
episodes.
so right. So they're doing it's episodic. It's an episodic format. And I think they're going to go over 2 or 3 arcs within the first season based on the trailer, right?
Okay, okay, that makes
Um,
more sense to me. Because if you said one movie to
oh yeah,
encapsulate a
no
thousand
way.
episodes,
It would have to be if it was a movie, it would be a random instance of the Straw Hat Pirates, doing something, but it's just way too much material to cover
yeah,
in a movie, right? So I'm glad they're doing an episodic format, and I'm praying this is the one that breaks the cycle, that breaks the curse of poorly adapted live action,
right,
right? We've
right.
seen
I like
how
Death Note, and people hated it. I like
Death
Death
Note
Note.
was, yeah, it was okay,
They had
right?
William Defoe.
It
William
was,
Defoe in
yeah,
an anime-inspired movie.
right. That right. But for example, like Cowboy Bebop is one of my favorite animes of all time, but
Yeah,
they just didn't capture the
I,
magic, right?
I
And
kind of liked it. It
yeah,
wasn't.
it was
It
okay,
was not as good. I get that. One of my.
right?
It is Cowboy Bebop is also one of my all time favorites, but it also spoiled me. Right. So Cowboy
Yes.
Bebop, I think, is 26 episodes. It's a
Mhm.
masterpiece. It's masterclass in anime. Why does One Piece have 1,000 episodes? I That's all I want. I just want you to give me. It's a rant I've gone over several times. So those who are
Mhm.
listening, I just want a season or two, or Attack on Titan, the final finale is about to drop, and then that's too much.
Finally.
If they do another final, I'm out. I will not finish it. I swear to
This
to
might be the
Almighty.
longest last final season of all time. Was it not? Is it 3 years? Are they coming in 2 or 3 years
I know
on
a little
this?
Japanese, and final means final
Yeah.
in Japanese as well, but they seem to not want to land this plane. And I get it's a lot of
Mm,
material, but then you don't call it the final season. You just call it another season. Like
mhm.
you were misusing this word. But no, I say all they say like Outlaw Star, that's one season. Cowboy Bebop, that's one season.
Psychopaths. If you see Psychopaths is really good.
Psycho. And so I enjoyed the first season of Psycho Pass, not so
Yes.
much the second season. I heard the third season's decent though, but the first
Mhm.
season, perfect. You should just ended it there. Why do we
I
have to go past a season or two? Is my
and
question. Like,
I agree with that. I think the 26 episode format produced some of the greatest animes of all time.
yeah,
And I think a lot of a lot of us studios should just stop at 26, right? Don't screw it up, right? Sam, have you seen Samurai Champloo? Remember that one?
I never finished it.
Yeah, that one
No,
that one's
I
really
did finish
cool.
it. I did
That,
actually. I just
that
thought
one's
about
good.
that. I
That's
did
a
finish
fun
it.
one. And
Yeah,
then
and then that was like what? That was only one season, I think, or was it
it was
two?
one season, right? It was only one season,
That's
but
all
it
you need.
ended. Yeah, it ended just fine, right? It ended perfectly. Another one is a uh, Gurren Lagann, and then Kill la Kill, same studio,
Kill the Kill.
but
Yep.
yeah, Kill la Kill, like
Was that
fantastic.
Trigger? Is that Trigger? Is that the studio?
Yeah, I think
Oh,
it is a
because all their
trigger. Let me
anime is
see.
like really
Yeah,
good.
Trigger. It is
That
Trigger.
is
And
Trigger. Yeah.
I think Trigger is they're goaded. I mean, I love it. So they've got. I'm actually going through the wiki right now. I haven't seen anything recent from them, but they have something called SSS Dynazenon, 12 episodes. Yeah, I haven't been current on Trigger, but definitely willing to give them a shot if you've got some
Yeah.
time to
Yeah.
watch.
They get in, they get out. I'm not sure if they're in charge of Zom
Mhm.
100, but so far I'm liking what I'm seeing. I started watching that one as well. I think they're on like episode 4 or what have you. Hopefully, so that one already has a live action on Netflix, which just blew my mind. I don't know if you've
Mhm.
seen that. Like it confused me. Like I flipped through
Interesting.
Netflix and it had a thumbnail and it was from one of the, I think it was like episode 2, and
Huh.
it was live action. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. They're mixing art styles. And then I looked at it a little bit harder and I was like, no, that's a series. They've already serialized it into a live action and it just
Mhm.
dropped. Um, and I'll probably watch it like because there's another one. Oh man, I can't remember what it's called, but they did a good live action to it. It's the one where kids are able to travel through time, which is not saying much
Uh,
about anime because that's a lot of animes.
does he travel through time and
Yeah, it's some
like
kind of
try to
like
stop something, stop
yes,
a crime or something?
yes, yep. I forget what it's
Yeah,
called, but they
yeah.
made that into a live action as well. But that was only one season
And was it
because he
less
went
than
back.
10 episodes too? I think it was less
Yeah,
than 10
he goes back in
episodes.
time with his same mental, but he's back in his childhood body. And he's trying to stop a crime. It'll come back to me before we get out of here. But one season, like I'm not saying that all of them should be one season. I'm just saying some of the best have only been a season or two, not yeah, like because Dragon Ball went too far, right? Like Dragon Ball is great. Dragon Ball Z was cool, but they just kept going and going and going.
Was it Erased? Was it Erased?
Erased. Yep, erased.
Yes.
Yep. That's a really good
Yes.
anime.
Yeah.
And there's only one season.
Mhm.
Get in, get out. Like just tell me something compelling in one season. I think a lot of stories. I get it. You want to make as much money as possible. Like
Yeah.
obviously, writers want to flesh out their story, and they might have like a 3 or 4 season arc. I give you 4, but I think you could do it in 1 or 2. I really think you could just knock it out.
And I think part of the success with anime is really the one is the Japanese culture of the excellence, doing everything to the best of your ability and becoming an artisan at your craft, right? And then two, they've got a really hyper competitive writing and market for people that wanted to break out, right? So a lot of
Yeah,
anime started as mangas, right? In the manga world, right? For us listening, manga is just Japanese comics, right? But in the manga world, right, it's really like a cutthroat. You gotta produce weekly, serialized,
Right.
right? And they have polls and popularity and sales. They go through all the metrics, right? So if your manga is falling out of popularity, right? Shonen Jump is the biggest manga,
Yeah.
aggregation of a comic book aggregation, right? But if your manga falls out of popularity, you get pulled off, right? So there's a hyper competitive aspect to anime and manga that people don't realize, and I'm kind of veering off topic, but that's why manga is popular, right? Like for example, your kid is into manga and anime, right?
Yeah.
But when we were younger, it was about Marvel, DC, and DC and Marvel aren't. When was the last time you heard young kids talking about an American comic book?
Oh
Like
no, yeah, it's
no,
been a while. Because
it's
I
been a
remember as a
while.
kid, I remember the death of Superman. That was crazy.
Yes.
Like we had my best friend James. He brought it into like I think he had 2 copies. I hope he had 2 copies, but he brought a copy in that he wouldn't let us touch, but he would flip through the panels, and that was like amazing, right?
Hmm.
I think that was like maybe middle school, so that was like the 90s for me.
Yeah.
To date myself, right? And I think that was the peak. That was peak comic book.
Oh yeah. And what is it? The greatest Joker stories? The Killing Joke. I remember when the Killing
Oh
Joke came
yeah,
out.
Killing Joke. Yep.
Oh my gosh, that was and it's yeah, they're original stories, right? They came out and it's not necessarily serialized, but I think American comics have found like one-offs that are super successful, right? But nobody I know really keeps up with issue 1 through 15 versus you got
Right.
manga out there. They're selling millions like volumes a month, right? It's insane. So I definitely think that there's something to be said about American comic books, right? Maybe a lot of it's just people are sick of rehashed or reinvented superheroes. And Miles Morales is fantastic, right? But how many Spider-Mans do we really need, right? How many
It's a
Spider-Mans
lot.
do
It's a lot.
like
Yeah.
I love Spider-Man. Spider-Man's amazing, but like, and there's only so much you can do with a character, right? Without just seeming for it seeming like a money grab. And I think that's where I think a lot of consumers are being disillusioned with American comic books, or really the Marvel thing too now, right? Like it's gone down since Endgame, right? And there's no denying that.
Yeah. I hate to
Um,
admit it.
and I hate to admit, and
Season
I
two,
love,
season two of
yes,
Loki though, I think might pick it back up. We might get a little
right.
bit of an uptick.
I hope so too. And maybe it is a consequence of saturation, right? Like we have Disney Plus, there's just so much content out there. And I think there's a lot of pressure in those studios to push out content. But it was definitely more exciting when it was every 2 years or every year there's a new Marvel movie. And it was like an event to look forward to,
Yeah, it went from
right?
1 to 3 to
Yeah.
3 plus 3 TV series. It just and I'm guilty, right? I feel spoiled because I was real pumped when Falcon Winter Soldier, WandaVision, and I think Loki, right? Was that all
Mhm.
the same year?
I think so. Was it last year or two
Plus it
years
was
ago?
like 2 or 3 movies. I was like, man, this is the peak of superhero, right? And now I'm just like, this face is terrible.
Yeah, I saw the Doctor Strange movie, right? And I think that actually tied in the end of WandaVision and everything
Yeah,
too, right? And I was just, I felt I'm not really the biggest movie critic or anything. I don't really care about plot holes. I'm not the first person to think, oh, this is stupid. But like, I just felt like it was just all over the place. I felt like there's too many hands in the pot when it comes to the production of it, and I felt like it didn't know who the main character was, right?
right.
Because
And
Doctor
I think
Strange,
that's a matter of everything having to be connected, right? Like we thought that was the
yeah.
best thing ever for the first decade, but now we're going into the second decade, and then it's getting harder for them to be able to do it right because people age, people change, people
Mm,
aren't necessarily going to be available for the next project, or the contract might end. So
mhm.
I think I honestly, and I hate to admit it, but I think that first decade, so like you said, till Endgame, will be known as the greatest of Marvel from here
Oh
on out.
yeah.
I don't think it can top it. Like I'm super excited about Kang and all the Dynasty stuff. I'm super excited about them bringing in the X-Men, but I don't think it'll ever be Endgame caliber. It
You
just,
know,
they did it too well.
I think I love X-Men. I freaking love X-Men. I've been a huge fan of X-Men for years, like since I was actually 5 years old, 6 years, like 30 years ago, right? I think X-Men is, I think, the one thing that can bring back the
You think they'll
Marvel.
revive it?
Yeah, if they can, if they can figure out X-Men, it's got enough character. We haven't had a good X-Men movie in a long time, right? The
Yeah,
last good
I would
X-Men
say
movie,
Days of Futures Past.
that was fantastic, right? And
Yeah,
that, I mean, it was a Sony production, right? But
yeah,
if Marvel, current Marvel can capture that, magic with X-Men and create something really unique, I think Marvel can get going back into at least explore that aspect of the Marvel universe. Because I think right now there's just too much, right? There's just too much with the multiverse, there's too much with all these characters.
yeah.
But if they can condense and really fine
But
tune
that's what we
X-Men,
wanted.
that's what we
We
want.
wanted, that's what we
We
wanted. All right.
we wanted
We
it.
did
You're right.
this.
We did
We
want
did
it.
this.
It's
We did
our
this to
fault.
ourselves. We're like, oh man, they're gonna do this, they're gonna go there. I can't wait for them to show this character. And now we're there, and we're just like, ah.
Yeah, but then like you come to the issues with X-Men, like who are they gonna make Wolverine now? Like,
It's gotta
Hugh
be some
Jackman.
younger person
It
because
can't be
Hugh
Hugh
Jackman,
Jackman. He's
yeah.
probably done, right? With even he was
Yeah, he's gonna
fantastic.
do, yeah, he's gonna do Deadpool, and then he's like, because he wasn't
Yeah.
gonna do Deadpool. Remember, he was like, I'm too old for this. So now they're showing
Mhm.
him, and he's wearing the original costume, but that's because just like Batista is like, I'm older. Like I can't
Yeah.
be, you know, peak Wolverine anymore. It's just
Man,
not
it's crazy. I,
possible.
I remember watching Batista. I used to be big into WWF, WWE, right? I remember Batista when he was wrestling, man, right? He was a lot bigger back then, right? Because
Yeah.
the requirements of being a professional wrestler, but he's done such a great job of transitioning into
Oh yeah, his
Hollywood.
transition is great.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like definitely Dwayne Johnson did it. I mean, he did it. And John Cena, I mean, I think he tried at some point, right? But
I think John Cena still gets,
I think he
he
is.
still gets it in, but yeah,
Yeah, he's not
he's
as,
obviously not The Rock. He's
yeah,
not,
he's not The Rock. And
yeah, he's not. Batista's doing real movies, right? Like I thought Batista's gonna do the Dwayne Johnson route, but like he's looking for things that actually that are like full-fledged, like not to say that The Rock isn't doing real movies, because he is, but The Rock also does fantastical stuff, right? Like
right.
he leans into the Rockness a lot. But Batista's like, nah, make me a little character in oh man, what was it called? It's not, I keep wanting to say Cyberpunk. It's one of my favorite sci-fi movies of all time. Um, Blade
Dune?
Runner. Yeah, put me in Blade Runner. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's
Like
right.
something that has nothing to do with him. Like he did run through a lot in that,
Mhm.
but like something that has nothing to do with action per se, or it's like
Mhm.
more, thriller, psychological. Put me in a knock, was it Knock on the Cabin, or
I saw
Knock at the
that the
Cabin or
other. I
whatever?
saw that a few months ago, and
And that
you
was like
know,
really good
it was
for
for the
like,
production, and it was
yeah.
good for a Netflix. Is it Netflix? Whatever original.
No,
It
no, it
was.
was a Shyamalan like went to theater movie.
Oh,
But it may not have been overall, may not have been the best movie or whatever, but like his character, like he showed range.
and yeah, so that's definitely refreshing to see, right? I mean, obviously he's a big, 6'4", huge guy, but it's
Right. Yeah.
refreshing to see these big macho-ish looking guys accepting roles that are more on the artistic side of the house, right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
want
He's
to they
not
want to
screaming,
get their
get
acting
to the
chops.
chopper.
Yeah. And man, I was over at my father-in-law's house the other day, and freaking Rocky was playing, right? It was actually the one with the Russian guy.
Oh, okay.
And I'm
So
like,
it's Rocky 2?
yeah,
The
three or
what,
four.
Drago?
Drago. Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah,
It was. I think it
Drago,
was
there it is.
three. But man, it was like I can't believe this was a movie. It's like it's awful.
Right.
Like the acting and it's just not on par with modern movies. It was fun. It's a fun movie to watch, but like it's just like a giant meme for us at this point, right? Like that's
Right,
how
right.
that's how
But that
80s
was
movies
the
are.
80s, yeah. Like I
Yeah.
used to marathon those when I was in the desert. So when I deployed to Iraq, we used to have movie night or whatever, right, for morale's
Yeah.
sake. And I would get a Blade Runner. I would get mostly we cycle through Stallone and and Schwarzenegger, right? So we would get
Mhm.
Predator, we would get Um, oh man, I'm forgetting all of his great movies. So you have Predator, you have Conan the Barbarian, all the Terminators. We get the what's the one where he's on Mars, his eyeballs come out, he's like
What was that one?
I forget
Oh
because they remade
man,
it and they did a bad job. But like, yeah, the
I
whole thing is that he's on Mars, right? Total Recall.
need to Google.
There it is. Oof.
Total Recall, yeah, Total
Yeah,
Recall.
my
There you
brain
go.
would have not let me not bring that up, but like that's one of my favorites. It's not a good movie.
I remember when the movie we watched was like we watched like some of the '90s movies, like
Yeah,
Independence Day was really good. Like the old Will Smith stuff, right? Where he
yeah,
kind of went
yeah,
kooky, but like Men in Black, the first one. Yeah, and then what? Some of the '80s classics like the Goonies, right? We watched some of
yeah. The
those.
Goonies.
Yeah, and
There's a
then
lot of really good movies. Look Who's Talking or whatever
yeah,
on
yeah,
there, the
there you
baby
go.
movie. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. That was a thing.
Oh yeah.
Ghostbusters.
And then the
There
Home
was a
Alones. Remember the Home
yeah,
Alones
Home
in
Alone's.
there?
Yeah,
Yeah, the one and two. And was it Trump was in the second one?
he was. He was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a
It's just like
quick
a
cameo.
yeah, that definitely back when he was making his billions or whatever it is. But
Right.
yeah, I remember this the movies just being I mean, obviously the action movies weren't as well acted, right? Because they served a purpose. Hey, let's go shoot a fight
Yeah,
scene and some
Rambo.
shoot
Right.
like Rambo.
So, but except for the first Rambo was actually really about PTSD. Like, if
Was
you
it
really think about it, if you
really?
look back, oh yeah, if you watch the first Rambo, he's a drifter. He's a veteran Vietnam drifter. And for I forget how it sparks, but like the cops are just harassing him, right?
Mhm.
Because they just don't like him being around. It just wasn't it it was a cultural film about the war and the way it impacted people and how they were unable to integrate back into society. And then it turned
Mhm.
into him mowing down
First,
hundreds of people with a 50 cal, right? Like that
yeah.
series kind of devolved. It was, don't get me wrong, I love Rambo. But the first Rambo was actually a really good movie.
Mhm.
And then it was just like, you know what? Send him to Afghanistan.
Or the what is it the new one that came out in 2008? I remember watching that in theaters, and man, that was insane. That was an insanely violent movie. I think it was
Yes.
actually
Yeah.
out of Burma, right? And it
So there was
was
another one after that one, but yeah, that's the one with the 50 cal where he's in
the
Burma and
50,
he's just gunning them down
just
at
like
the end.
literally, it's a freaking
This is
kill zone. It's
crazy.
a
Yeah.
literal meat grinder.
Yeah. But that's not like if you ever get a chance, you have nothing going on. Watch the first Rambo and you'll be like, yo, this is insanely deep. He's having post-traumatic flashbacks about his time in Vietnam. Like it's
Mhm.
crazy.
That's
And
interesting.
then the next one, they're just like, you know what? There's something here. And it's action. And that's what we're gonna go from here on out for the next two, three
Well,
decades.
really, the producers were like, hey, damn, the people really like this action crap, right? They like it. So let's
Yeah.
just, I think the 80s really spurred on those action movies with, Arnold, and, Stallone,
Yeah.
everyone just, and it honestly, Fast and Furious series, it's like the modern version of
Yeah,
that.
I would agree with
Would
that.
you say
Yep.
that? Like,
Yeah.
remember
Just
when
popcorn.
yeah,
Yeah, because the
popcorn,
first one,
like,
the first Fast Furious had like real cars, real racing,
yeah.
and
And it was
now I
about
watched.
racing. It's
Yeah,
about racing.
I watched a part of the 10th one, right? Because the last one I watched, I think was like either five, five or six. It was the second to last Paul Walker one. It was the one. It was the one before he tragically passed away during the
Mhm.
filming of the very next one. But I watched it and it was just craziness. Like he was driving down the steps of the Vatican stopping a bomb from running people over. Like he was using his car to bump the bomb to where he wanted it to be, and like people,
Mhm.
like he's like racing over people and around, and it was just like this is nonsense. It's fun, but
Was
this is
it
not the first Fast and Furious where they were actually like racing cars.
was it the fate of the was it Furious? When did which movie was it when Paul Walker passed away?
I
in the
think it
middle
was
of
like
it.
number like, and I don't, I know there's a lot of fans out there, so I'm not trying to belittle you.
Yeah,
The actual like
I'm
I'm
a
gonna
huge
at some
Fast and
point
Furious fan.
I'm gonna watch all of them, but like
I love,
I stopped in the
yeah,
one where Paul Walker and him were which was perfect timing for me for 10, right? So I watched the one where they're running through the streets and they had the safes chained to the back of their cars, and like it was just it's not as ridiculous as Fast and Furious has become, but and I was like they're killing people like literally like first off I don't know how they're dragging these armored bank safes with vehicles. Like I couldn't suspend disbelief just yet
oh
because
yeah.
they weren't punching rockets or grabbing helicopters out of the sky yet, or swinging cars up buildings. It was just before that.
What was it? The one with the Rock like pulling a helicopter or something? Something completely
Yeah, that's
crazy.
the Hobbs and Shaw
Hobbs
spinoff.
and
I didn't see
Shaw.
it yet. Yeah, I didn't see it
I
yet.
actually
But
really enjoyed Hobbs and Shaw. I thought it was. I mean, I did see it on the airplane, right? It's one of those movies you watch on a long flight, and I'm like, man, this is freaking awesome,
I'm gonna go
right?
back and watch them all because because again, I'm not trying to believe people who like that stuff. Like sometimes
I love Fast and
you
Furious.
have
I
to
love
like
these movies.
yeah,
They're
just
just
enjoy a
fun.
movie. Yeah.
They're just fun.
But yeah, that like you're I think that's a great analogy. Like Fast and Furious are the modern day version of those 80s movies I grew up on.
Yeah,
So I can't knock it. I just haven't gotten into them yet. Like I
yeah,
said, I stopped right there. But I've seen the memes. I'm just like, you know what, I gotta watch this again. Just so I can I wanna because I do want to see the final one or the quote unquote final one that's gonna happen. And they're bringing The Rock back, and the beef with him and Vin Diesel is over, and I think that was all hype anyway.
yeah. I think
Um,
that was just a mean to spin, like provide hype, right? So any
yeah,
publicity is good publicity type thing.
so I do want to be part of that. I do want to see that. But
Yeah,
I remember I was in tech school when the first one came out, and like I was in Biloxi, Mississippi, in tech school, and I was on Liberty or whatever we called it. I was on a pass. Um, so I can actually go to a theater. I can actually leave the base, go to a theater, yada yada yada. A lot of hoops you had to jump through to finally get there. And I remember leaving there and getting back on the bus to go back to the base. And every car, regardless of how good the car was, peeled out of the parking lot. They all had to burn out of the parking lot after the movie. I remember this
oh
distinctly.
my
And I was like, this is
gosh.
so dumb. That's how hyped people were after the movie. Everybody
Oh
was like,
man.
I'm going to shift all my gears in this automatic car. You're like, yo, what are you doing? What? I remember that, and then now it's ridiculous.
Man, you
But
got me thinking about high school. So I was in high school when Too Fast, Too Furious came out, right? And I remember my buddy, I remember him working like all these hours, crappy hours at this sandwich organization. I don't want to say the
right,
name, right? But he
they didn't
worked
sponsor us.
hours, hours, hours. He worked hours and hours, and he ended up buying a brand new Acura RSX. Was it the? It's the new. It's not the Integra, but it's RSX. But it's the front wheel drive. Yeah, the RSX, right? But it was a front wheel drive vehicle, and he did exactly what you're talking about. Just like every day
Yeah,
after school,
he had to peel
right?
out. He had to peel out the
You peel
drive.
out, but you peel out like, hey, bro, slow down. You're just going to Burger King, man. We drove right across the street.
That was a ridiculous time. People still do that though. I see that all the time.
Yeah,
Where people just
it's definitely a man boy thing. It's like
right.
it's like a people with nice cars. They're just like people, grown adults that love Hot Wheels
Yeah,
growing up.
it's a
Like,
toy. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
it's
like
a
they're
toys
playing with Hot Wheels in real life. It's
for sure,
hilarious.
man.
But so before I land this plane, right? It's a great conversation. Again, thank you for the 2 weeks. This has been awesome. Everybody, Shannon will be back. Don't panic. Shannon has not left us. And look, at some point I'm gonna have Levon back. I gotta get him the guest. Like the time zone thing didn't really work out for us too well, but I gotta get Levon back on the podcast as a guest host. But now I know I have access to Abacon. I'm gonna get him on here as well. Um, but before I leave, I just want to tip everybody off to a cartoon I started watching recently. If you have Max or whatever it's called now, the formerly HBO Max,
Just
it's called
Max.
My Adventures with Superman. It is a cartoon, anime inspired, of it's like the retelling of the origin of Superman. Like he's just now meeting Lois Lane, and him and Jimmy are interns at the Daily Planet. He's trying to figure out who he is, it's a different take on Superman. It's again anime inspired. It's an American cartoon. And it does funny homages to anime. Like at one point, he's transforming into Superman because he doesn't wear the costume underneath his clothes. It's like the alien ship that's buried in Kansas beams him power. It's interesting. I actually do like it because I'm a big Superman hater, but I actually do like this cartoon. But in the second episode, I want to say his transformation into the suit, Sailor Moon. They he's spinning around, the suit is snapping onto him. And I'm just
Oh
like, that is
man,
awesome. Everybody should check it out. I don't know
for
how good it is.
sure.
I'm only on the fourth episode, but so far so good. And it's got like the X Forces in there, or that the Task Force X. Yeah, Task Force X is in there. They're starting to introduce villains. It's very interesting. I think everybody should check it out. So that's my tip. Check out My Adventures with Superman. I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, for sure.
But with that being said, again, thank you, Chris. We're going to definitely have you back on the episode. For those who are listening, thank you for your support. Please continue to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Again, we want to plus up those numbers on YouTube. We want to get more audio listeners. I got some more guests popping up, so look out for, or I guess this is Friday's episode. So on Thursday's episode, we had Jay. Jay is a Navy vet who has two. He has one non-for-profit, which is doing amazing things to help people transition, both military members and their dependents, as well as he has two for-profit businesses. So he is doing very big things. And he is I believe he's a electronic warfare officer, but don't quote me on that. We talk about that on the podcast. So definitely check that one out. That will be Thursday's episode if you're watching this in the incorrect order or whatever order you want to. I don't care as long as you listen to it. And then again, look out for Abacon. We're going to have him back on the show in the near future. It's definitely a pleasure. And just check everything out. Monday, Tuesday are topics, Wednesday's discussion, Thursday Ask CISSP with Jay will be on there. And then of course, this was everything else. So hopefully this entertains you on your car ride to or from work. So do all the things, find me on all the social medias. Where can they find you, Chris?
You can find me on LinkedIn under Chris Abacon. And again,
There
it's
it
been a
is.
real pleasure being here.
Yeah, absolutely. We gotta definitely do this again. We gotta do this in real life. Like we live in the same city again. So we definitely hang out.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's been a pleasure. So with that being said, stay safe, stay secure.